Welcome to PACTV Community News, and welcome guest anchor Kim Mio, who is also overseeing PCN once again. Happy to have you filling in on the desk this week for Zach.
Thank you.
Our local stories this week will take you to a Hall of Fame ceremony in Kingston, and we hear about a mosaic project in Duxbury.
PCN brings you to the Plymouth Boys and Girls Club for their PhotoVoice project, and we get a government update on the Nuclear Regulatory Commission meeting.
We hook up with AAA's car doctor for some more auto tips, and Rene, Duxbury's town manager, is on set for a town meeting preview.
It's going to be a great show, and we begin at Silver Lake Regional High School. Silver Lake Regional High School held a Hall of Fame induction last month, which included 2 people who went on to professional sports careers, including hockey and golf. The night also highlighted some members from the 1961 baseball team and a retired teacher who was also a coach for many years. The night was filled with memories and honor. PCN was there to capture the excitement.
This is our Hall of Fame, Silver Lake Athletic Hall of Fame. The committee was formed back in 2005. We wanted history to be recorded, and we didn't want it to get lost. So we formed our Hall of Fame committee with a number of coaches. So our first Hall of Fame was actually class of 2007, and this is going to be our 7th class. And these are the Hall of Fame members since 2006. Your plaques, congratulations by the way, your plaques are here from the top all the way to the bottom row and up. And the reason that we picked so many this year was so that we would fill the board. It's the only reason. So congratulations, you made the board. I am joking. So what we did is we took a list of players that we felt that we knew should belong into the Hall of Fame. And our first 2 classes were basically out of a list that we had created. Since then, what we've done is we've taken applications, done research, and created a pool of players. We still have a pool of players, and out of that pool of players, we select a team, a coach, and we try to vary the number of years, distance between graduation years and sports. So they're in the pool, and their day is coming, but we kind of select in that manner.
You couldn't touch the board, and everyone was afraid. We never came outside. We were sweating inside, playing cards. But that was a great time.
It is really a joy to actually see, 40, 50, 60-year-old individuals relive their high school days, and to be honored for some of the things that they did.
I'm just flabbergasted. I'm just still kind of in awe that I'm even here. So what an honor. Very kind of the culmination of everything I've worked for in my life, and they're kind of rewarding me for that, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be part of the school that I've been involved with since junior high school. So I went to junior high here, and then I went to high school. I graduated from high school here, and then I came back to teach for 30 years, and then I continued coaching after that. So this is kind of like, thank you very much for all those years of service.
We do this every 2 years, with 6 or 7 inductees, and we are actually looking for individuals on the website to nominate people. Linda Redding, our school librarian, has maintained the website, and it's the Silver Lake Hall of Fame. They can go on Facebook to the Silver Lake Hall of Fame on Facebook. We like people to nominate so that we can, in fact, research new players and people. And I think that one of the things that we really need are recent graduates and recent accomplishments.
The Art Complex Museum in Duxbury is doing their part for the 400th commemoration on the South Shore. The planning began years ago, and this past fall, the actual physical work began on a mosaic wall that will be installed outside the museum by the fall of 2020. PCN met up with the museum's education coordinator and some volunteers who are working very hard at the very calming and relaxing job of mosaic art.
This is the mosaic project from the Art Complex Museum in Duxbury. And this is our piece of the Plymouth 400 celebration. And Duxbury, at one time, it was all one. And there is a committee in Duxbury that's working on this as well. And we had thought of possibly doing something in Plymouth, but because this is an art museum and we're all about art, we decided that this would be the place for it. So we created this mosaic with the idea of a nature-based theme. It's a herring run, and it's perfectly suited to the environment because the wall that we've chosen for this mural to be on actually slopes uphill. It's just to the right of the museum doors at the main entrance, and herring is something that's really important and was really important at the time of the early settlers. The planning of this has really gone on for about 3 years. I did a few prototypes, tried out some different things, had to test the clay, like I said, and it took a long time. I went to a few mosaic conferences where I learned a lot about technique and materials. The mosaic is made of glass and clay and stone. The glass is from a few different sources. It's vitreous glass. It's pretty easy to cut, so we're having fun with that. The clay fish that are herring, we had a custom copper cutter made by our one of the employees at the museum, Sue Kowalski. We're also using natural stone that has been sourced in many different places, so we didn't go to the beach and get gallons of stones. People are bringing stones. And it really started last fall. We plan to continue through this year and finish this part of the mosaic. So we're using cement and we're attaching all the tessera, or the pieces, to the mesh, which is a fiberglass mesh, and that part of it will be done this year. Then next year, in 2020, our goal is to be complete in August, and that means cutting the cement board, attaching all these pieces to the cement board with thin set. Then we have to use grout, and we have to attach these panels to the wall, and then there's some work on site. So it's a lot of process in the installation. So we're hoping that the visual will be from the grass to the earth to the stone up to the fish and to the glass. And it's been wonderful in terms of people getting involved and volunteering and sitting around the mosaic doing together it's really been fun. And this mosaic is coming along beautifully.
The Boys and Girls Club of Plymouth, in conjunction with the Plymouth Youth Development Collaborative, held a moving event, the PhotoVoice Showcase. This project provides an opportunity to involve youth perspective on topics where they are normally underrepresented. Participating youth showcase their feelings on topics around substance abuse, mental health, and coping skills. Through photography, the youth were able to speak on these issues and themselves. PCN stopped into the showcase evening to bring you to this powerful event.
PhotoVoice is a form of non-traditional drug education that we use in order to have youth voice around a topic that they're sometimes not asked about. So the way the project works is kids are given cameras, and each week they're sent home with a broad-based question, and they work to answer the question through photography. So their photos answer the broad-based question, and when they come back to us, we record that conversation that's had, and we implement our own education during that process, but then ultimately use their voice to caption the photos. So every photo you'll see in this project is a picture that was taken by a youth, and it's captioned with a quote that was said by a youth during that process. We specifically chose the topic of substance misuse, substance use disorder, and also focused on mental health and coping skills as a topic. Using photography in this project is both really unique and helpful, so it gives students a fun way to use a skill that maybe they wouldn't normally use, but it also gives a really unique answer to a really broad-based question. So photos can often say lots of words, and a lot of times these pictures spark a lot of conversation in the community, and when we showcase them in different areas, they spark a lot of conversation in general.
Substance misuse, particularly the opioid crisis, is a problem nationally, but Plymouth is one of those communities that is especially hard hit, and a lot of kids within our own club have had their lives totally altered by parents or family members who've become addicted. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of provide some awareness about substance misuse and provide our kids an opportunity to channel some of their own feelings and their own perspective in a positive and creative way. I think that by providing them an opportunity to kind of highlight the problems they see of substance misuse through photography, they kind of had a renewed enthusiasm about the topic, and we saw a lot of kids get very excited. They were very motivated. They were asking about when the program was going to start as soon as they walked in that day. So I think we got a really good response from our kids, and it really helped them to kind of understand the issue from a different perspective.
I think it's really cool how like all your pictures that you take is like being shown to others, like makes you feel like special in a way because all your pictures are being shown to other people. Through photography, like I feel like I can just take any picture and like it represents my emotion, and like I can show other people like what it means. I hope people see and notice that not to go down that path and like actually like get a good job, go to college instead of like getting out of college and then going to drugs, like to make them feel happier when there's a bunch of things that you could do to make you feel happy instead of drugs.
Our government update segment brings us to a recent Nuclear Regulatory Commission meeting.
After 46 years, Plymouth's nuclear power plant is slated to cease operation this spring. And in January, the Maryland-based Nuclear Regulatory Commission visited Plymouth for 2 public meetings to outline the next steps in the facility's closing. Entergy, the company which has operated the plant since acquiring it from Boston Edison in 1999, detailed their plan to transfer ownership of the facility to Whole, a New Jersey-based energy company that specializes in the decommissioning of nuclear plants. Under the safe store decommissioning strategy offered by Entergy, the process would take place over a 60-year time frame, with the company monitoring the gradual decay of contained radioactive material before reopening the site for general use in 2080. At an estimated cost of $1.66 billion, the project would draw the bulk of its financing from a $1.05 billion nuclear decommissioning trust fund. The decon procedure put forth by Whole centered around removal rather than containment of spent fuel and irradiated material, with an estimated time frame of just 8 years before partial release of the site and a budget of $1.13 billion. Members of the audience, including state government representatives and members of the Nuclear Decommissioning Citizens Advisory Panel, weren't entirely convinced. Some expressed concerns that the budgetary estimates were low and failed to take into account any unforeseen expenses for which taxpayers might be held financially responsible. Others cited potential security risks and worries that a change in sea levels could endanger the decontamination process if the 60-year timetable was used. With the license transfer drawing scrutiny from State Attorney General Maura Healey, the future is still uncertain for Pilgrim, going into the plant's scheduled closing on May 31st of this year. For PACTV, I'm Keith Hughes.
AAA's car doctor John Paul is back with some common myths regarding snow tires and gas.
Hi, I'm John Paul, AAA's car doctor, and today I thought we'd talk about some automotive myths, and there are quite a few. One myth that comes up, especially in wintertime, is I have all-season tires on my car. Do I need snow tires? Or I have an all-wheel drive vehicle. Do I need snow tires? It really depends on the kind of driving you do and where you go. All-season tires have to work sufficiently all year round. So they have to work as good in the summertime as they do in the winter. So all-season tires are kind of a compromise. They do okay in the winter, they do okay in the summer, but if you have to be out before the snowplows are out and you need to get to work every day, the best thing is putting 4 snow tires on your car. You're going to get good traction to get going, and more importantly, you're going to get that really good traction you need to stop. The other thing is winter tires, snow tires, the rubber compound's softer. So even in cold weather, and if there's no snow, they tend to be stickier and give you better traction than a performance tire or even an all-season tire does. So again, depending on your driving habits, use winter tires if you need them, if you need to be out there early, but keep in mind your all-season tires are a bit of a compromise all year round. Periodically, people will come to me and say, can I buy cheap gas for my car? For the most part, gasoline is gasoline. Our tests at AAA has shown that if you use cheap gasoline routinely, over time there actually can be carbon that builds up in the engine. If you switch to a top tier fuel, you'll find it helps clear the engine up, and it actually removes some of those carbon deposits, and the car will run better. So if you have a choice, and I'm cheap, I tend to buy the cheap gasoline. But if I see top tier gasoline and a cheaper brand of gasoline selling for about the same price, I'll put in the top tier gasoline to keep my engine running good and clean and take advantage of those extra additives. So top tier gasoline is better. Is cheap gas bad gas? Sometimes. These are just some of the automotive myths, and there are more. But really, to get the best information about your car, go to your owner's manual. Always check it there. That's where you're going to find some of the best information. For PCN, my name's John Paul, and I'm AAA's car doctor.
We are so pleased to welcome back to set today Rene Reed, who's the town manager for Duxbury. Welcome back. It's been forever.
Thank you so much for having
You're
me. I
so
appreciate
busy.
it.
We're so glad to have you.
It can be that way, yes, and terrific to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so you have a lot coming up, but we're going to talk mostly about your town meeting, which is on March 9th, Saturday at 9 a.m. at the Performing Arts Center.
Correct. We expect a good crowd, and we have, like I tell people every year, we have something for everyone.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So let's talk about it. You have 40 articles and about 12 special
Yes,
articles.
we have 40 in the annual, roughly about 40 articles in the annual town meeting warrant, and then another 12 in the special.
Okay. Let's go right into it. You have an $80 million budget.
Correct.
Talk about that.
This is the first year we've actually crested the $80 million mark. I'm not necessarily proud of that, but that's simply the cost of living. That's the
right.
cost of doing business in a municipality these days.
Yep.
Particularly in Duxbury, where we try to deliver excellent services, and I think we do that on a daily basis, and everyone seems satisfied with that. The challenge will be not just for this year, but for the coming years, particularly next year, where we're looking at probably increased staffing positions. Certainly at the schools, they have expressed to us their need to have additional funding, and we aim to try and provide that.
Yep.
Again, it will be up to the voters to decide, but we try to do it in a thoughtful and methodical manner so that the voters can contemplate whether or not they want these services. If we do an override next year, it wouldn't just be for the schools. It would be a town-wide override.
Okay.
So it would also impact the police and fire departments to address their staffing needs, and the general administration of government.
Right.
Things like needing more funding for the mechanics,
Yeah.
not just the people, but the supplies and the services that they provide to us.
Exactly. Your vendors, yeah.
Exactly. So it's not just about hiring more people. It's
Right.
being able to deliver the services that people have come to expect.
That's right. And the cost of people is always going up. I mean, employees, they require benefits, and that's
Correct.
the health insurance. And
yes,
and
it isn't one thing to just hire someone. If you had a position, for instance, that say a $50,000 salaried position, there's a benefit that goes along,
Sure.
a benefit package that goes along with that,
Yeah.
and that can cost on the order of another $20,000 to $22,000 per person. So
Absolutely.
that has to be factored in there. So all of a sudden, the $50,000 position has jumped to $70,000.
Exactly. Okay. So you basically have a very stable budget with no real big new initiatives in your operating budget.
If there's a nice thing about that number, there's nothing exciting in it. It's just basically delivering the same level of service that we've had in the past. There aren't any new positions. We're just trying to fund from one year to the next in this case.
And you don't have a lot of commercial
No,
entities
Duxbury is
in your town.
97% rural residential, so
Right.
we like the character of the area.
Yep.
We have a tremendous amount of open space. Over 60% of the town is conservation or open space.
Wow.
The people like it that way.
Yeah.
The residents love it because they can go out and be in
Yeah.
the woods any time of year. It's wonderful.
Okay, so let's talk about next year's possible contemplation of an override. What does that mean? People get, an override, what does that mean? Can you, in layman's terms, explain why an override sometimes is necessary?
Well, I can certainly try. We have a set amount of money that we can ask the voters for, no more than 2.5% an increase.
Okay.
In this case, we might have to ask for more than that 2.5%. When that happens, that's when you have to have an override. So what would happen is, at town meeting, the voters would contemplate an article that would say, shall we ask the voters, by way of a ballot question, to go above and beyond that 2.5% request? Then what happens is 2 weeks later at the election, the voters go to the ballot box and they decide whether or not they want to have the additional expenses. And those expenses are all listed out at the time we go to town meeting through the warrant, so that they'll know exactly what they're buying.
Right.
So it's total transparency. The voter understands whether or not he or she wants to have these things, and if they do, then they vote for it, and if they don't, then they won't.
And one thing that does confuse people sometimes is if town meeting approves a 2.5 override, and then it's not approved at the ballot, is it dead?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
What you have to do is then you have to go back and look at your budget again, and you have to reset the budget, start over, and figure out, okay, these are the things that we had built into the override. What do we need to take out to get us back to where we were without it?
Right.
So it would reset the process to the extent that we would be dealing only with the operating budget, and it would require another town meeting.
Okay, and that's why it's really important that people either go to or watch town meeting so they can be educated as to what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Right.
The idea is to try and do it once and do it right.
Exactly.
If the override passes, then we're good. If it doesn't, then we have to go back and recalculate.
Back to the drawing board.
Yep.
So let's talk about capital projects that are
Sure.
coming up. The PCE pipes. What is
Yeah,
that?
we have 4 interesting capital projects, and they're sort of all over the board in terms of the specific nature of each one. PCE pipes are polychloroethylene pipes. Basically, they are pipes that were installed in the ground many years ago, and the town has had an aggressive program of replacing these pipes because they contain cancer-causing material. So what we did was started replacing them back in 1997.
Are these water pipes?
They're water pipes,
Okay,
yes, excuse me. What we did was allocate money in the capital budget to the tune of about $50,000 for many, many years, and we would build up a reserve and then go out and replace the pipes when we had the money. Shortly after I got there, about 5.5 years ago, we upped it from $50,000 to $100,000 so that we could have an even more aggressive campaign to finish it and get it completed. We have a new finance director in town. His name's John Adams. He does a terrific job. He came up with a proposal that said, you know, we don't have a lot of these pipes left, maybe 10,000 more feet. The project would probably cost about $3.2 million if we finished it. Let's see if we can do it all in 1 year. So that's one of the questions we're going to ask the voters to consider, is to see if we can get it all done funded all in 1 year, and then finish the build this summer and then go into next summer and have the whole thing wrapped up and done.
Which would be perfect.
That'd be terrific.
Yeah, okay. Second is the Powder Point Bridge.
Yeah, the Powder Point Bridge.
Beautiful Powder Point Bridge.
Yeah. You know, it's an iconic structure in Duxbury. A lot of people know it all over the South Shore. In fact, if you look at any of our literature from the town of Duxbury, it's always featured there extensively. Yeah, it's a lovely structure.
Yeah.
That lovely structure, though, is in need of some love itself.
Yes.
So, being a wooden bridge positioned in the North Atlantic, it's subject to tidal activity, any of the microbes in the water, ice,
weather.
The weather certainly plays a factor. Several years ago, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, the town moved forward with a project to install fiberglass wrap material around some of the pilings that were in danger of deteriorating. The the restoration project didn't work as we had hoped, so we're pulling that material off, and what we're going to do is a stronger, more long-term idea. The article here will be about $85,000 to get design and engineering to basically do sistering of piles next to it. Most likely steel. Something that's going to last 25 to 30 years. We want to get a longer life out of the bridge before we have to replace the whole thing.
So you're piggybacking steel pilings with the wooden pilings.
That's correct.
It's probably so you can't see them too. They're probably on the inside.
Yeah, aesthetics are certainly important.
Absolutely.
They, over time, will probably look like the wooden pilings that are out there.
Right.
One of the interesting things is that we have square pilings driven into the water, into the mud, and then they just aren't conducive to that kind of environment. They should have been round.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was designed many, many years ago.
Wow.
So we're going to
That's odd.
we're going to talk about that and see if we can get the funding for the engineering design. Now, the overall build out, we don't know what that's going to cost yet, but it would go out to bid and be funded in a subsequent year.
Okay. The third capital is the engineering design of a new DPW building.
Yeah, our DPW building, which is located behind Town Hall, it's kind of an interesting location because nobody really sees it. The only time you see the DPW is if you happen to go there for something. Happens to be where we have our animal control shelter. So if anybody's picking up a lost dog, they'd be apt to find the building there. That building is well over 50 years. And not because of anyone's fault, the building has deteriorated, just because of the way it was built at the time. Sadly, there are portions of the building where the steel is actually flapping in the wind in a heavy weather situation. And it's not the kind of structure you want to have millions of dollars worth of rolling stock. You don't want to put your loaders and your excavators and your plow trucks in there. The place is in dire need of replacement. And so one of the things we're doing is we're asking the voters to contemplate through a ballot question, because this would be an override.
Yeah.
First, what they'll do is look at the question on the warrant at town meeting and say whether or not they want to spend the money. And the money is about $1.4 million.
Okay.
For the purpose of going out and getting engineering and design specifications to build a new building.
Okay.
We estimate the cost will probably be about $14 million.
14 million, yeah, to build a new building.
10% of that.
Yep. Okay, and your last thing is the seawall, which
Yeah.
is so important to
The
Duxbury.
seawalls. You wondered why I
Yep.
wasn't here for the last year. Well,
Yeah.
I've been dealing with seawalls. Last summer, I wish. Last March, we suffered some major storms as a result of nor'easter Riley. We have about 4,000 feet of seawall protecting roughly 210, 220 homes on the northern end of Duxbury at the Marshfield line. Of that 4,000 feet, we lost 800 feet to
Wow.
the North Atlantic. They took a pounding. The walls were fissured, they were cracked, they fell in,
Yeah.
they were buried in the sand. We did a lot of emergency repairs over the course of that event in that first month. Then we did additional revetment work over the summer. But now what we're doing is proposing to replace that 800 feet. The good news of which is FEMA has indicated that they could refund or basically supplement up to 75% through
75%.
reimbursement.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Yep.
Yeah, we hope that comes through. FEMA's not exactly the fastest kid on the block, but that's okay. If as long as we get the money to refund it, it would be extremely helpful.
Right.
So that's the biggie. That's
Okay.
the big question. That's about $5.5 million.
Okay, so lots going on.
A lot.
Going on. Okay.
Yeah, we're spending money like we've got trees in the backyard growing dollar bills.
But like you said, this is all things that your constituents and the people who live there want. This is the
Exactly.
quality of life.
And I can tell you this: none of it's wasted. We refine our numbers again and again and again, and then one more time after that, just to make sure that when we're going in with a number that we're presenting to the voters, we know that it's the best value and that it'll have the longest life for us.
Excellent. Okay, so March 3rd, March 9th.
March 9th.
Show up at 9 a.m.
9
at
a.m.
the Performing Arts Center for a town meeting, and they'll be educated about a lot of these
Yep,
things.
and thanks to you, it'll be on TV as well.
Absolutely. Yes, it will. Thank you so much, Rene.
Thank
We'll
you.
have you back sooner
appreciate
rather
it.
than later. And thank you for watching. PCN is on Facebook and Twitter, so be sure to follow us there. For more information and links to stories, check out PCN at www.pactv.org. PCN is also on YouTube, so be sure to follow our channel. We're back in a couple of weeks with more local stories. Have a great week.